operation for a few weeks, months now, but we wanted to have a special thank you and welcome for the desk. And the thank you is for the Friends of the Library, which very graciously made the restoration happen, and to Eric Paulson, who was the person who actually did the physical work and transformed this desk from an ugly duckling to what you see now. And at some point we're going to invite everyone. You can come back here and look at the operational side of the desk. I do want to say a few words about how the desk sort of had its life start as a library desk and circulation counter, and then how it came to be lost and how it came to be back with us again. But also a little bit about how library work and the work on this desk has changed. And I won't go on for too long. I'm also going to ask Eric some questions about the things he discovered as he worked on the desk. And I'm also going to ask Scott Craven, who knows a little bit about the history after talking to the neighbor of the desk. There are pictures and things to look at around, as well as items from our archive. We have the original letter from Andrew Carnegie granting us a Carnegie Library for Ossining. We also have the original invoice, or the bill for for this library desk, and some other interesting items from our archive that we can show off. And I've also got some samples of library cards and the kind of card work people used to do. That's Jimmy's problem, not mine. This is actually, in some of the pictures, you'll see women typing, mostly women typing library cards on machines like this. So the desk. In June of 2016, Karen, our director, got a phone call that somebody had what they thought was the old library desk in their garage basement. And I do have some pictures of it at that location. We came, we looked, we measured. It was in pretty rough shape. After about a month or two of going back and forth, we were able to find two very willing staff members who went to get the desk. And I have to tell you, it's very substantial. Eric can talk to you about just how substantial it is. It was designed to last for a very long time and stay in the same place. So it's happy to be here, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. The desk had to be broken into 3 pieces to get it out of the people's house. And they even had to take the surround off their door. So I have a feeling they must have built their garage or rec room around it. That it came to be with us. We took a little time looking at it and looking at all the pieces, talked to our friends, talked to a lot of people about whether or not we wanted to restore it, how we would use it. Some people said it was hopeless. But our president of our friends group knew the perfect person. She introduced us to Eric. He came and looked at the pieces. He was not put off at all by the fact that it was 3 major pieces and then a lot of miscellaneous pieces on the floor, several things broken and a lot of things missing. So he took it away for almost a year. It was with him for almost a year, and it came back to us in February. We have some great pictures of it being brought in multiple pieces and then put back together as you see it here. And we've been using it as our information desk ever since then. Everybody feels better when they stand behind it. I hope it feels good when you're standing in front of it too. In some ways it's been a challenge to fit all of our newfangled things into it, but I thought we did a pretty good job, and the staff seems to be pretty comfortable using it. So I'm happy about that. Just a few words about how things have changed. When people first started doing library cards, this one is from 1862. A lot of them were handwritten. Now, that may not seem like a big deal right now if we've gotten so used to the computers. We don't look at library card catalogs anymore. But if you just think about how many cards are just in this picture, and that's just one drawer, and it's not even the whole drawer. So as publishing became more active, it certainly took longer to type all of these things. This is an example of a card catalog processing room where they're actually just ladies typing multiple copies of cards that are then going to be distributed to libraries around the country. So they're actually doing the work for us. And these pictures are all around here. Everybody can handle them. This is Mr. Andrew Carnegie. We actually have the picture that came with the building. It's in the hallway right here. He didn't spring for actual oil paintings for everyone. They're all copies, but it's still pretty nice. We did find some samples of desks, and so we used those. They're here. We gave copies to Eric so he could see what the desks had originally looked like, but there were other things I'm going to ask him questions about, and how he figured out what was missing and what it was like. But just another example, this is from 1901, the Boston Public Library. These 4 cards are actually one entry. It took 4 cards for this entry about one book, and it's also, it's a Russian novel, and so it's typed in Cyrillic, so they had a specialty typewriter. So it was work intensive. There's no doubt about it. On the front of the desk is actually the original tag that came with the piece of furniture, and then underneath it we have a new plaque that says Ossining Carnegie Library Circulation Desk, 1914. In honor of the library's 125th anniversary, this desk was lovingly restored through the generosity of the Friends of the Ossining Public Library. And so now I'm going to talk to Eric about it. So my first question for you is, what did you think when you first saw the mess of broken wood?
Well, I got really introduced to this project by my good friend Barbara Henninger, and she has a way of pushing my buttons and making me look great. And then I thought I was almost at the point where I was the next Carnegie. I know all kind of phases of cabinetry and also chemicals and finishes. You brought me down to the basement. I had my friend Ken Gabelson with me, and we packed up the pieces, and I had a good feeling about the whole project because it took us about an hour to bundle them all together. The whole tub came in individual pieces. There were bags of small broken up pieces, and it was really in a bad condition. But spiritual, I thought we were on good vibes because you didn't ask us the question once. Oh, when is it going to be done, and how long will it take, or can you do it? So you were just busy there sorting out books and cartons, and while we were busy lugging this thing out the door. And over the year, it took a long time, and many hours just lugging these pieces around, turning them over. It took a long time to figuring out where every piece goes, especially with the top. I couldn't get it back together because the inside was missing. And why was it missing? And then I thought of the person where this was stored. Maybe he cut it out. But,
we do have a picture of it before we cut it up into pieces to get it out of their basement, which is one of the things you can look at. And there's a huge chunk missing out of it.
And after investigating it further, I realized there can only have been a roll down, not a rolled top. This is a roll down. And you can demonstrate it.
But you can because of the wires.
It actually does roll all the way.
And now I was confronted with, should I make a roll down? I never made one in my life, but I always wanted to make one. And here was the opportunity. And my good friend Karen answered my question, why a roll top? Karen, can you answer why there's a roll top, roll down?
I don't remember. I don't remember what that conversation.
Okay. You
Well,
know?
they did.
Does a librarian know why is it a roll down?
I'm going to go with It had people's personal information, library cards, people's name and address, but also people still paid fines back then for their overdue books. And so
No,
you would have
they
had to
were-
protect the
they were all
cash.
in the other drawers
All
somewhere.
right, so what was it?
There was the left drawer is covered up with a green felt. I covered up the ink stains. The roll down is designed because when you return a book, and most books were returned on that side,
Ah,
and here in the front, there was like a 2-inch high rail, which I didn't replace. I filled in the holes, and I thought putting up the rail would be too much of a barrier between the audience and so when somebody returns a book, that's my conclusion, you want that book out of the way, down the hatch. Because it happens, you mix the old return books with the new order.
that would never happen.
Not today, but in those days. And so that's my conclusion. The library in so much has a separate entrance to return books. And then I said to myself, aha, down the hatch.
So one of the things that really interested me when you brought this back the first time is that there had been quite a few gouges and holes, including where Barbara's standing, a large hole that had been cut out so that they could put an electric plate in.
Now you gave it away.
I gave it away,
You gave it away.
but it's
Yeah,
amazing
I
what you
designed it
did.
this way. If you put a smaller plate on it, then everyone would right away say, aha, electric outlet.
Mhm.
So therefore, I made it a little bit longer, looks nicer.
Doesn't it? It's a nice design piece now.
Now, some things are new.
Yeah. So how many things did you have to create? You know, actual wood pieces, like, we know the roll top. This drawer.
That box is new, the drawer. It doesn't have a handle because, you know, you can just grab it
Mhm.
up there. And then there's the a piece at the bottom. And
And
I
did
had to
you,
fill in a piece on some of the shelvings. And other than that, not that many.
not that many? And what about the brass? Is that all the original brass work?
That's all the original, but it didn't have the same color in those days. They
No.
had a brass which is more like like a bronze color, like a darker one. And but I wanted to make it look like presentable and not like an antique relic. Because if it's somewhere in a corner and says this is the original, oh, that may work, you know. But now this is in such a pronounced space, and then afterward, it's only the same pieces. They made billions of them. So it's just brass, you know. And but these I donated. These a couple of little knobs.
Couple of little knobs,
They were in
okay.
my collection, yeah.
Oh, good. And you can see again, if you look in these pictures, you'll see what some of the old sort of beat up hardware looked like. What was the most challenging part of the whole project?
Well, not extremely challenging, but I never made a roll down, and that was a challenge. And you always see them glued on canvas, but this one is constructed within wire. But I have the machines and the tools, and I made some test cuts, and that's probably the last one I make, but it's also the first one.
Well, I would encourage everybody, when we step out of the way, to come up and look closely at the wood finish, and you will see places where the wood was damaged. And Eric created, you know, small repairs as well as larger repairs. And it really is stunning.
Talk about the green felt.
Oh, yes. The insides of the drawers were in terrible condition, and when you come around, you'll see that they've been lined with felt. There are just a lot of nice features. We've got all kinds of modern things and our old-fashioned desk, but I'm very happy
It's
to.
also new.
Oh, this was new.
Yeah.
Oh,
This
very
was
nice.
a pine board with some writings on it.
I hope they were important messages that were written on it.
For him, they
Yeah,
were, yeah.
oh, good,
Yeah.
good. So,
But I put the felt on it, the green felt because the bottom of the boards were so heavily stained, and I think being that you wanted to use them, I didn't think you would have put it in a pronounced spot like this location is. I would look better when it's cleaned up.
Well, I will say that when, at first, we weren't exactly sure where it was going to go, and there were many places that we talked about. But the more we thought about it, and the more we saw how beautiful it had become, right smack dab in the middle was where it needed to be. And like I said, these desks were designed to work hard and last for a long time, and heavy enough to stay in one place. So we decided we were picking a place, and that's where it was going to go. Scott, I want to ask you a few questions about some of the things you found out that sort of explain why it was in the terrible condition you had to work with.
Well,
In what condition it is now structurally.
Yeah.
Mr. Paulson, who I suspect would make a very good forensic scientist, found out himself while he was redoing this what the story was. We were told by a neighbor that the gentleman who took this and put it in his basement was an avid hunter. So what he did was he took out that front, he put in a reloading press, and he would reload shotgun shells and use this as a reloading station. Mr. Paulson found notations on it referring to grains and things like that for the actual reloading of the shells. So, forensic CSI Austin right here.
This desk has really had a life.
Yes.
And I had to investigate it because there was, the word was going around, it was used as a bar, but it's not true.
Oh, I heard that, yeah.
Yeah, that was what
used
we
as
sort of
a-
heard, is
as a
it
ballistic
was
loading.
Yeah, I think
know,
it would make a good
entertainment in the rec room.
Yeah, but yeah, he was a reloader, and that was a big thing for a long time, and
Have you seen it the way it was apart?
I have not. I hope everybody joins us in September when Dana White, the village historian, is going to come in and do a presentation on the history of the Ossining Public Library, 125 years. Then we're going to do a brief talk about Carnegie libraries. Just to let you know, a couple things you should know about Carnegie. I'm a real New Yorker. So is Molly. We call him Carnegie. If you go to Pittsburgh or Scotland, they pronounce it correctly. It's Carnegie. But he's a fascinating man. It's a fascinating story. He dedicated over 1,600 libraries in the United States. A really interesting person. We'll be talking about him at length in September. And Dana is going to do the talk about the village library. So I hope you can join us then. If you get an opportunity before then, if you want to visit Mr. Carnegie, he's in the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. He's right across the street from Mr. Gompers, one of his arch rivals back then, and he has a large Celtic cross above his grave where during people go in there and put in coins in the knotwork for good luck in business. So if you get an opportunity to go down, you can visit him down there before we talk about him in September.
It's too bad we can't get him to come up here, but I
Yeah.
probably not going to work out. As you look at some of the pictures that are around, one of them when I was looking was card cataloging, people filing away at card catalogs. But then I found out a little bit more about this picture. And this picture was taken in 1940, and this is actually the FBI fingerprint filing that they're doing. And if you could just share another little detail about it.
When the FBI started, J. Edgar Hoover worked in the Library of Congress before he worked for the Justice Department. And he credited a lot of the methodology and science behind what they did to his card catalog days working in the Library of Congress and organizing things like that. That's why it looks like that then.
Yeah, like I said, there are multiple copies of these pictures around so people can take a look and enjoy them. Do people have questions for our knowledgeable
I'd like to mention an important, having the experience of seeing it the way it was taken apart, that I didn't connect it the way it was connected originally. In one piece, total length of the desk is about 9 feet 2 inches, 2 somewhat inches. And so I put it back together so it comes apart in 3 pieces. It has 2 sides, a middle section. The top comes off first, and then you take out the roll top and the middle part, and the front panel, the kickboard, the woodboard, falls out all by itself. And I really like to make note of it, and all you people hear it, so if the question comes up again, it has to be moved. There's one among you who knows. I know how.
And I have a lot of picture documentation of it coming together in pieces. Any other questions for us? We're all going to be right here. We also have Allison on staff who's brought things from our archives that she can show you. They are one of a kind, so she'll be a little protective. But then the other photos you're welcome to pass around, handle, look at. We have one of our original book trucks that was also part of the Carnegie Library collection. The sample books that are on there were all books that were purchased in the original purchasing of our collection. We made little mock-ups of them. And the two big tables you see here are also original library furniture that we're a little hard on, but and one of the things I actually like about this setup, and I do welcome you to come look more closely and get a cookie, is you can see how different the modern desk is, the contemporary desk, from the standing desk. And one of the things that, you know, as any industry changes, there was a lot of talk that librarians shouldn't be so grim and intimidating and stern, and when people walk in, it's kind of scary, so you should be sitting down, friendly. But one of the things we found over the years is as we've gotten this desk back, we actually feel like we're friendlier because we're looking people right in the face. We're not staring down at our desktop. So it's interesting to see how it evolved and how different they are. But please, I welcome all of you to ask us questions, look at everything, and the cookies are all card catalog themed and book themed, so enjoy.